Awesome. So let's get into the workshop component, AI 101. So this is all new for me, all new content. Normally I just blast through this part and I assume that everybody knows how to use these tools. And the more that I got into AI coaching, I realized that some of the things that I see every day, there's, people in the room quietly like, I did not know the difference between 4.0 and 0.4. And so we're going to break it all down and then build it up into more and more complex things. So first of all, we've got the model families. These are sometimes referred to as the frontier models or chatbots or LLMs, large language models. These are some of the biggest players in the world, ChatGPT, Claude, which is owned by Anthropic and funded primarily by Amazon. We got Gemini, which is Google's up-and-coming tool. Llama, which is owned by Facebook, which is open source. We got Grok, which is owned by Elon or XAI. And we got DeepSeek out of China, which is also an open source model. Now, a few just quick points about them. DeepSeek and Llama are probably the most common ones when people are getting into fancy, like flying with AI stuff, where they can download a version of that, customize it, fine tune it for their business, and use it for super cheap. You do have to rent some chips up in a cloud somewhere to run your own model, but if security and customization is important, you're probably playing around with Llama and DeepSeek. So when you hear open source or open weights, those sorts of terms, we're talking about the ability to really truly customize the underlying model. The rest of them, I believe they're all closed source, although Elon might be forced to open up his with him going after OpenAI. So ChatGPT is still the biggest. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best, but stats from 2 weeks ago said it has 37 times more usage by small business than Gemini. My experience with Gemini so far has been a little bit frustrating on a sort of just using it with Google's related tools. I'm on Google Workspaces, but I was struggling with Gemini. They're coming up from behind. Now, when they released Gemini 2.5, suddenly all the development community, people that are using it via the connectors, these connectors we refer to as APIs, which is really just thinking of a way that you plug in and access this intelligence. Instead of accessing it through a chat bot, you're plugging it into a system. And that's what the API talks about, application programming interface. Just think the plug into the intelligence. So a lot of developers have been plugging into Gemini recently into their applications. Its cost is the lowest. Its performance is the highest. It looks like it will just beat out Claude, which was normally the one that most developers were using up until 2 weeks ago. So there's been a shift. I've got some AI tools here that track the usage of these various APIs, and we can see Gemini is, I think, rapidly going to replace Claude. So that's sort of the landscape, but for the purpose of this workshop, we're just going to be talking about ChatGPT. Again, it's the 1,000-pound gorilla. Everyone's using it. And I think the lessons that we learn with ChatGPT can apply to whatever model. Now, who is going to win this game? I mean, there's like 20, 30, 50 other players I don't even know about. Think of this as the sort of beta versus VHS battles of 2025. We don't know who's going to win. So a lot of developers, when they build tools on top, like what Peter is doing, Peter, I'm curious, is your platform model agnostic so that you can switch between the LLMs based on who's winning the battle?
Yeah, it's like my development team is literally playing all of these every day. We have very close to
I don't think everyone can hear you, but the answer I can see is overwhelming. Yeah. So most developers, we don't know who's going to win. So you can't get fully invested into a specific platform when you don't know who the winner is, right? So when we're building tools on top, we build platforms that we call them model agnostic. With a little drop down, you can switch from a specific model family like ChatGPT over to Gemini or test out Grok. So we don't know who's going to win. People are accessing these tools either through the chatbots like ChatGPT, which you should all have in front of you on your computers, or they're accessing it by plugging it in through APIs. And ChatGPT is winning the game. And then you'll hear about Llama and DeepSeek a lot in the sort of open source community. And Gemini, I think it feels like they're going to win. That's my feeling. Right now, it's still ChatGPT, but Gemini is like coming up fast. And the first thing you want to do is win the support of the development community, which they now have. All right, so we've got plans with ChatGPT. We've got the free, the plus, the teams, the pro, the enterprise. Which one is for you? Well, I highly advise against using free. Free, you're selling and giving away all of your data. Just be aware of that. Also be aware that if you have your teams, your employees, your contractors using your data on the free plan, you're also just feeding the models with that data. So you should get onto it. Minimum a plus plan. This is $25 a month in Canada. Most of my clients, I recommend they get onto the Teams plan. The difference between Teams and Plus, I'll talk about on the next slide. And Pro, that's the 250 Canadian a month, or 200 USD for those on the web in the US. That one, some of the advantages are that you get access to more powerful models. Like on the Teams plan and the Plus plan, I didn't access the O1 Pro, which has longer thinking time, test time compute for challenging problems. So if you're trying to solve major scientific discoveries or do complex math, or I don't know, I'm not in that world, but things that require tons of compute, you want to be on the Pro model. Another advantage of Pro is if you're doing lots of deep research reports, which we'll show you here in a second, you only get a limit of 10 with Plus and Teams, 12 deep research reports per month. With the Pro plan, I can do up to 100. And once you get hooked on deep research reports and you put them on like autopilot, you can burn through them pretty quick. And then Enterprise plan, I don't think anybody here needs to worry about. I don't touch it. That's for if you have over 150 employees. There's a whole bunch of extra benefits. So instead of doing Q&A at the end, at each section, feel free to put up your hand and we'll stop and clear up the question. If you're going to ask a question throughout the presentation, please make sure it's totally focused on the slide and the correct topic. Otherwise, save it for the end when we do open Q&A. Yes?
Is it easy to move from the Plus to the Team, as an example? And really, if you already have Plus account, will it automatically know that you're moving it over to Teams, or what? So you're not paying twice, right? So how do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So there's two account types. You've got personal and business. For me, we're in the Wild West. These programs and the naming conventions of them are just garbage right now. It'll all be cleaned up. They've promised to clean this stuff up. Like just it's so confusing. On the personal plan, I upgraded to Pro, the $250 a month, because I do tons of deep research, and I keep the personal plan separate. And then I have the Teams plan as the business, which is also separate. So it depends how you signed up. You'll see there's two account types, personal and business. So like in the top right hand. All right, so when you're on ChatGPT in the top right-hand corner, you can see I'm on my Pro account, and then I can switch. Teams is the diamond, purpley blue diamond, and then so I switch between personal and business. So depending on how you entered and how you upgrade, just be careful because you will lose your data. If you're on a personal plan, you've been using it for business, and you have all your stuff in there, then you migrate to Teams plan. I'm not 100% sure. They might have fixed this, but they weren't migrating. Like your custom GPTs weren't coming over. Your chat history wasn't coming over. Hopefully they fixed that. I'm not aware if they have. But yeah, did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Benefits of moving to Teams plan is you can automatically force the security settings. Most people sign up even on the paid plans. They don't realize if you go into settings and data controls that it will default and say that I am willing and able to share all of my data with ChatGPT and use it for however the heck you want. When you're on the Teams plan, it automatically turns that off, and you can control that. I think it's by default just turned off. I don't even think you could turn it on to share that data. So the security of your data is really important. I want you guys to look right now within your ChatGPT accounts. Go to wherever you're at, click on settings, click on data controls, and where it says improve the model for everyone, make sure that's turned off. Now in Teams plan, you can control that for your entire organization. If you're on a Plus account and then some of your teams are free and some are a Plus, you have to make sure they've done it right. And that comes down to like onboarding and training and accountability. And if they're using a free account, make sure they understand not to upload like all of your client data and things like that. Also, another benefit of the Teams plan is that you can share your custom GPTs nice and easily. The only other way to share them on the other plans is if you make them publicly available for everyone and sort of push them out there for the world to see, or make them accessible via URL only. Within the Teams plan, we create custom GPTs for each department, and then we share them. And there's a lot of common ones. Like I'll show you some here where we take the automatic meeting summarizer transcription tool that converts it to Slack. That's a tool that we use for everyone. One person manages it and we share it. And you can decide who gets to see what. So you could build a tool called your company name's strategic advisor and only share that with your leadership team because maybe it has access to financial data that you don't want the rest of your company to see. So sharing the customized versions is another benefit. Having centralized billing is helpful as well. Back in the early days before I was on the Teams plan, my controller was always like, hey, are these accounts right? Do we have this many? It's really hard to tell if you're overpaying on license count. When you're in Teams, you can see these are the accounts I have, and there's one bill that you have to pay at the end of the month. And this is a new feature. It just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, perhaps, is when you're on the Teams plan now, I've been waiting for this for a while, you can now connect Teams directly to Google Workspaces. I'll show you here. On the left-hand side there with connectors, under Teams, Google Drive, I authorized and connected. Well, looks like we haven't finished the connection, but it'll allow you to do things like say, hey, pull up a document where we talked about this, or where's the agreement for this client, whatever data you have up in your Google Drive, you can just query it directly from ChatGPT within the Teams plan. I have not fully tested it out yet. It came out a couple of days ago, and we're expecting Microsoft integrations to be coming shortly. I highly recommend you get on those Teams plan. It'll be worth it, and they keep adding more and more features as well. And it's only an extra $5 per month to move up to the Teams plan from the regular plan. All right, the ChatGPT models. This gets confusing. This will be a quick lesson because Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he said that they're planning on making the model selection automatic based on the use case. It should automatically determine which model is best suited for what. Until then, you have to deal with this mess. So you've got these base models that don't do thinking. That's 4.0 and 4.1. This is going to get confused. There's no other way to explain this other than it's confusing. So 4.1 that just came out about 2 weeks ago is like 10x more powerful than 4.0. It's the new base model that everything will move to. Right now, your custom GPTs, which we'll show you in a second, are working off of 4.0. And it's the only core model you use that doesn't have the thinking. It loads much, much faster. So 4.1 will soon replace it. They also released 4.5 a few months ago, calling it like the model that was more empathetic and had better sort of emotional, intuitive nature to it. And 4.5 is going to be deprovisioned and replaced with 4.1, which is better. So 4.1, I think, is going to knock out 4.0 and 4.5 and clean that up. Confused? You've got the base models that don't do thinking and they're faster. You've got 4.0 and 4.5, and they'll all be replaced by 4.1. That works well when you need fast answers and the extra thinking time is not important for you. Now, when you need models to think more, these are the reasoning models. They have the O's in front of them. So we've got O1, and then just about a week ago, we released O3 and O4 Mini. O3 is the full model, and then you've got the Mini O4, which is basically a preview of what's coming with the full O4 model we would see in less than a year. So if you see an O in front, it's going to do chain of thought reasoning, think behind the scenes. It's going to take its time, and it can work on more challenging problems. Now the full, the mini, and the high, the full is just, the model is here. When you see mini, it's a condensed version, roughly 1/10 the size, but 90% the effectiveness. So O3 Mini, which we've had access to up until recently, got replaced by O3. It's a big step up in performance. You get that final 10% lift. The minis are faster, and then the high, depending on which plan you're on, just means it's going to scale the thinking time. If you go to the high models, it just means you have to sit there and wait longer for it to do the chain of thought reasoning. And when they do hallucinate on a regular basis, you might think these models occasionally are high. Now, the Pro model, that just means it's like O1 Pro. That is, it's like the high version of O1. I told you there's no easy way to explain this shit. And Sam said he's going to clean it all up. You'll just use it, and it'll say, which model is best? We'll flip to it. So just like, it's like, I feel like I'm giving you a lesson in DOS prompting, knowing that Windows 95 is going to replace that with a double click. Dan.
Yes, a quick question was asked last night.
Nice and loud.
Quick question that was asked last night.
Yes.
When they moved from 4.5 to 4.1,
Why?
are they going to remember everything, or do we have to retrain them?
Well, I have a whole slide on memory. So Dan has his memory stored in specific chat channels, like where he's been chatting. He just keeps using the same chat. He goes back to that chat because it has all the history and the memories retained. Will that remember when you switch to a different model? Good question. I think you can switch the model at the top within a chat channel, and it maintains that. We'll just do a quick test right now. So if I'm in ChatGPT here, and I'm using this model, and this is the history of that channel, I can switch from the model at the top. Now I'm going to go to 4.5 and continue using it, and it still has the context within the chat. So yeah, no problem there. Okay. Those are the models. Now we've got tools. So these models, up until a week or so ago, if you wanted to use web browsing or image generation or multimodal inputs like inputting image files and having it process the images, you had to do that only in 4.0. But with the release of 0.3 and 0.4, now they're full multimodal reasoning models, meaning that you can take a picture, put it into 0.4 mini or 0.3, and it can process it. So it can handle multimodal inputs. It is phenomenal. Play around with it. Like take a picture outside and say, where am I? Put it into 0.3 or 0.4 and just watch what happens and look at the thing. It'll zoom in on different parts of the image and dissect it, look at license plates and look at the foliage of the trees and say, that's a mountain in Okanagan or Kelowna. And then we've got custom GPTs, which I will show you. This is where you can take ChatGPT, upload your own data. This could be a deep research report. This could be your VTO, like your strategic plan. It could be your financial data. It could be a template. It could be a brand voice document. Any internal data that you want, you can upload into a custom GPT. You can save and store the prompt there and then reuse it. And I'll have a whole section going through custom GPT. So these are the tools baked into the models, part of the model families. Are we confused yet? Any questions? And it's going to keep getting more and more complicated as we go. All right. So protect your data. We already showed you that. I recommend you get on the Teams plan. Make sure you go through in data controls, turn that privacy setting off, especially for your team. Make it a requirement for anybody that's in your company that's using these tools. Now let's talk about the different layers of memory. The first thing we have, as Dan just mentioned there, is the chat memory. Whatever history you have in a specific chat will be used as context for that conversation, which is really useful if you're prompting and adding tons and tons of context so that you don't have to come back and re-explain everything all over again. Now, that was recently replaced with account-wide unlimited memory storage about 2 weeks ago. Did you guys see that announcement that said ChatGPT will now remember absolutely everything that you've said? A little creeped out? A little worried? I'll show you how to prune your memory in a second. So I think account-based memory is going to replace the need for chat memory, although I believe it will probably prioritize chat memory over account level memory in certain situations. Then you've got custom GPT memory, of which it doesn't really have any. This is confusing. If you're using a custom GPT, like your email summarizer GPT, it won't remember anything for now. Keep that in mind, unless we upload and attach files that we've added to the custom GPT. And now memory pruning is very important, especially if you work in an agency like me. So I talk to lots of different clients all the time, and I could be on a phone call with one client, pasting a transcription into ChatGPT, and then I'm in another chat channel talking, and I can see it's pulling up context from my lifetime memory, and it's mixing up client accounts. So how do you handle that? Well, this is where memory pruning comes in handy. So you go to settings. So you click on this button, manage memories. And you scroll through these and you see everything that it has remembered, and you go through and delete the stuff that is not relevant to your business. And you should do this on a regular basis. I would schedule it like daily, weekly, just a quick little check. You can also ask for it to add things to memory. If you're having an important conversation, like, ooh, I want you to remember that, just say, add that to memory, please. And then you'll see a little thing appear and it will add it to your memories. Or if you're talking about something, you can say, strike that from memory. It will listen to you there. But you want to go back in and just delete the stuff that's non-relevant. So the stuff that I have in there is like, I have it interview me. We'll show you that on the next slide. This is how you want to really load it up to begin your journey with ChatGPT. If you haven't done this yet, this is a great exercise. So you go to ChatGPT and say, I want you to ask me questions one by one until you have all the information that you know that'll help you fully personalize my ChatGPT experience. And you start by offloading a bunch of context. I'm a business owner. I work in this field, and these are my goals. My personality type is an ENTJ. I'm married, and I have a dog and an 11-year-old son. I live in Vancouver, and these are my biggest competitors. Just tell it whatever you want. Just blabber. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be organized with your thoughts. AI can pick it all up. And then after you've given it context, say, that's my little speech about who I am. Keep asking me questions. over and over and over, and it'll just keep filling up your memory. And that will really help you personalize your experience. While you're doing that, you do not want to be typing. AI is great at understanding conversations from audio recordings and using the microphone button. It is so much faster. If you try to give it a bunch of context from typing versus talking, you'll end up giving it this much versus that much context. It wants that context. We've actually found that when you give AI context from spoken word, like if the way that we speak is very different from the way that we type, it actually, in many situations, will perform better from spoken than from written word. You can also have it upload and analyze files. Like if you've got, those of you that are, raise of hands if you're running EOS to organize your business, entrepreneurial operating system, those, or you have like a one-page strategic plan, an OPSP or a BTO, all your strategic, quarterly, annual, your BHAG, your rocks, your core values, all that stuff, you can take those, upload it, and say, add this to memory. And then you'll want to delete that the next quarter when you have your new VTO. But you can upload external files and ask it to add things to memory for you. As we just saw, you can also now, with the Teams plan, connect to Google Drive. And now that it says, it's weird, it said 91% of my memory was full, but it now says it remembers everything that you've talked about in all of your different channels. So the more that you use the model, the smarter it should be getting over time. All right, any questions about all the different levels of memory or how to have AI interview you? Andy.
What's the best way to separate your personal questions from your business ones?
Switch between the accounts. So you have a Teams account or a Plus account. If you're going to use it for personal family stuff, switch down into your personal account and keep it all separate. Very, very important question, and I should add that to my slides. Thank you. Make sure that your personal memories are not crossing over with your business or it gets very confusing.
If it's a team, there are many members, but the memories are not shared across team members.
Memories are not shared across team members yet. The Google Drive at the account level on the Teams plan is the only way to share data or through shared GPTs. But even if you create a project and you share that project with your team, like the chat, anything that you have in your chat channels, your personal histories, none of that is shared with your other team members. Yeah, great question. Matt.
Will the team model, like if you have multiple team users using it for the same function, will the memory kind of aggregate build together? It won't cross over. That's what you just said.
Yeah.
It's individual profiles in the team platform.
That's my current understanding with 98% degree of confidence. Yes. Okay, let's keep going. Prompt engineering. This one kind of also feels like teaching you about DOS prompts, knowing the double click is going to come with Windows 95 and replace it. But for now, this is still important. And for any of you that are building AI applications like Peter, or if you're building these agentic AI flows like connecting make.com to your accounting software and automatically writing emails, that kind of stuff, you will need prompt engineering to get the tools talking to each other. And if you're sort of like a software developer, tech, you're just getting into that space, this will continue to be important for you. If not, I believe this will become automatic within the next 1 or 2 years. It will just know, and it will ask you the right questions to get what it needs to give you the right answers. But for now, we're doing tests, and what you put into your prompt will dramatically impact the quality of the output. Andy's going to show you that exactly, because we had a little pre-dinner last night at Cactus, and Dan was joking because when he was using the image gen tool, he could never get it to work right. And Andy's like, oh, you just have to do the right prompt. I bought this amazing prompt that controlled everything, and now it works. And so there's many situations where you will need to master a prompt to get the right output. And the act of that is called prompt engineering. Now, prompt engineering doesn't have to be too complicated. I'm going to give you a shortcut hack where if you're not sure what to do, you can just ask AI to act as a prompt engineer and interview you, ask you questions one by one until it has enough information so that it can write the perfect prompt for this specific reason. That's your shortcut hack for anything. But we'll show you a bunch of things here about prompt engineering. So it's important, better prompts, higher quality. It will save you time when you save these prompts. Because when you build a beautiful prompt, you can save it and then reuse it in the future. I'll show you some pretty cool hacks about how you can quickly reuse them with macros or uploading them to custom GPTs. It gives the AI way more context. I've had situations where our media buying manager was trying to have ChatGPT analyze a spreadsheet of Google ads and look for duplicate content for a client. And it kept making mistakes and false positives, what have you. We did the exercise of doing prompt engineering, wrote this massive prompt versus her little teeny prompt. Was like, can you please scan through this document and see if there's any duplicate ad copy anywhere in the spreadsheet and let me know? Prompt versus like 2 pages. Boom. And it finally, for the first time, it worked. And that was her aha moment. Like, oh shit, I should be engineering my prompts, saving them separately. So we're going to show you how to do that. So on the left is a bad prompt. On the right is an example of a good prompt. We'll show you how. So this is a framework that we're branding for a book we're writing. We'll call it the Create framework. Jeff Woods from the book, The AI-Driven Leader, he calls it CRIT, C-R-I-T. Sorry, Jeff, I needed to get my own name in there. I think Create is easier to remember than CRIT, those of you that read his book. So the C stands for context, just using the microphone, load it up with as much context as possible. So say I need to write a 500-word blog article, a 500-word article on not how to screw up your words while you're public speaking. You might come along and say, write me a 500-word article on how to not screw up your words while you're public speaking. Or you can just blabber and say, context would be, okay, I'm a new public speaker. I have a fear of public speaking my whole life. This is how I feel in those situations. And this is what I'm trying to do. And the goal, the purpose of writing this article is I'm hoping I can get some more search engine traffic and have people pick it up and maybe use it for lead gen. Like, just give it as much context as you possibly can and it will do better. That's context. Just give it tons and tons of context. Role, this is usually the first thing I start with, but it doesn't spell create when you put the R up front. But role is just like, I want you to act as a professional copywriter, or I want you to act as a prompt engineer. I want you to act as a marriage counselor, whatever it is. And the outputs are incredibly different based on the acting as. So role. E, this is, and first of all, I want to step back. You don't need to prompt engineer unless you're not getting the results that you're looking for, right? You can come along and just quickly use it without a detailed prompt. And a lot of times you'll get the response you're looking for. You fall back on prompt engineering when you're like, it's failing me, or I need better quality output, or the article it wrote just doesn't feel right. That's when you come back to here. So don't do this all the time. Now, E, I would say it's overkill, but it can be helpful. If you say, I want you to, say we're building a prompt on a custom GPT that would create standard operating procedures for a company. Well, if you can upload an example template of the output that you're looking for, that's beautiful. Or if you can say things, I want it in table format looking exactly like this, those are the sorts of examples that you can give that can dramatically improve its performance. Now, A, this is from Jeff's book, and I immediately adopted it when I heard this one, is you say, ask me questions one by one until you have all the context that you need to complete the task. And this will like 10x your prompting immediately. So you can almost forget everything except that. Just give it a bit of context, and you could just use C and A, and it works almost all the time. Huge difference. All right, and T, usually if you give enough context, the task will be included in the context, but T is kind of a reminder to tell it what you want the final output to be. And then E is a reminder that this is an iterative process. You have to keep enhancing your prompt. So you will build a prompt, you'll test it, you'll get an output, you'll be like, it's not quite right. You'll go back and enhance your prompt. And the way that you enhance your prompt is you go back to ChatGPT and say, I tested the prompt. This is the output. This is what's wrong with it. What can you do to make it better so it meets my goals of whatever? And it will make suggestions for you. Say, great, love your suggestions. Go ahead, update the prompt for me. You get the new prompt, you try it again. So sometimes I've seen people cycle through prompts like 3, 4, 5 times to get it right. So it's an iterative process. So the E stands for enhancing, and that's iterative process. So Create Framework, we have, this was in your homework that was sent out in advance, and we've got a training slide on that if you want to go deeper into this. All right, we talked a little bit about this, is talking with AI, conversational prompting, voice interactions, it tends to do better than typing. If you look at the way you talk, like look at a transcription of the way you talk, we put in a lot more different filler words, but we end up talking usually 2, 3, 4 times faster than we type. So The moral of this story is it does really well with speech transcriptions and more context, so we do recommend that. Now, this is a common mistake I see people do. I think it's called one-shot prompting. Like, it's when you just go in there and you write a detailed prompt and that's the output that you use. For complex situations, I recommend you separate the prompt from the output. Like, you engineer the prompt, you test it, you iterate on it, you keep working on the prompt, you nail it, and then say, okay, I've done the prompt, now let's execute the prompt. Separating the prompt from the action. So that's what this slide talks about. I'll give you one example with deep research. So deep research has a little bit of prompt engineering and ask me questions built into it. If you've used deep research, you notice it comes back with like 3 to 5 questions before it proceeds. That's, building in the ask me questions. Okay, so we did an example with a deep research where with one client, they just did a regular prompt. It was looking for competitive intelligence on a new market they were looking to expand into, and answered their 5 questions, and it wrote a deep research report. It was roughly 25, 30 pages long. The client read it like, wow, this is amazing. This is game-changing. I'm like, wait, let's do prompt engineering before we do deep research. We built out this crazy complex prompt, spent 5-10 minutes on it. Then we submitted it to click the deep research button. Instead of looking at 20 or 30 sources and coming back in 5 minutes with a 25-page report, it was triple the length. Way more detail, and she read it. She was like, holy shit, way, way better. We see this with creating custom GPTs as well. When you create those custom chatbots, a lot of people just go in there and build them. I take the prompt outside of the custom GPT, build it first, and then bring it over. So building the prompts separately before you use them and storing them in a library is recommended best practice for the most complex situations. Now, this will only apply when AI is failing you. Probably 9 out of 10 times. You can just tell it whatever, it will give you an answer and it's fine. Okay, so any questions about separating the prompt and the prompt engineering from actually using the prompt? We clear? All right. Now, how do you store these prompts? If you're going to spend a bunch of time, most of you should have somewhere between 5 and 20 prompts that you're using on a regular basis. And where you store them is typically called a prompt library. So that could just be a simple Google Doc, Notion, wherever. That's basics. You want to get more advanced. I saw this on an AI podcast once. You can save them in macros. If you're on an Apple computer, you can use a tool called Magical, and you can have keyword combinations, like start with hashtag P12, and then boom, it injects 2 pages of prompts with that one hashtag, like keyboard shortcuts. Really fast way. Personally, anything that I'm using on a repetitive basis, if you're prompting something over and over, what it's telling you, it's screaming at you, turn me into a custom GPT, because you can store your prompts in the custom GPTs. Then on the left-hand menu, you just select the correct GPT. You don't say anything, you just paste it in. I'm going to give you an example here. So one of the most common custom GPTs that I use is the meeting transcription tool, which is in my Teams account. So on the left-hand side, My Zone, AI, Meeting, Summarizer, GPT. Now, if I was to edit this GPT, you'll see the prompt built into the back. Under Configure Mode, Instructions. You are a professional, friendly executive assistant and communications specialist for a digital transformation agency. Your job is to read through full unstructured meeting transcripts from Zoom, Noda, AI, voice notes, etc., and produce it. Blah, blah, blah. This is the prompt. I pasted it all in here. Here's the tone and voice, summary structure. Start like this, bold this. Every single detail of how I want that output. So I can come out of a meeting, I get the transcript from a Zoom call, copy, paste it into this custom GPT, and it knows exactly what to do and gives me a consistent output every time. That's one of the key benefits of custom GPTs. So think, if you're using a prompt over and over, store it into a GPT, and then instead of having to even use a macro or going into your Google Docs and finding that file and then pasting it, or even finding the correct chat channel, Dan, and going back and using, you can just select the correct model on the left. So if I'm doing a quote for like a technical quote Or if I'm building a standard operating procedure, I would use my SOP bot. If I'm summarizing a meeting, I'll use my meeting summarizer bot, my email polisher bot. Or if I'm doing technical scoping and creating a technical document to pass over to developers, I will use this bot. And it already has the prompts stored and saved within the custom GPTs. Okay, we're warming up into more and more complexity. Any questions?
I apologize. Stupid question.
Talk nice a lot.
Okay, so say you build a GVT, but you previously didn't know that existed, and so you've just been, in the sidebar little chats. How do you connect the two? Like, say you've had a chat that you've been working on, you want to put it in.
Great question. So if you've got tons of chat history, you've basically been storing your prompt in a long chat, and every time you need to do a similar thing, you go back to that chat. Now you want to convert that into a GPT. Well, all of that context is there. You can just say, I want you to act as a prompt engineer and use all of the context that you see from this chat and come up with an incredible prompt that will help me create a custom GPT so I can stop bugging you here in this chat channel. I want you to ask me questions one by one, sometimes give it a cap, 5 or 10 questions, and then it'll interview you. It'll use all that context. It'll generate the prompt. Then you copy that prompt, you paste it into the directions of the custom GPT, and then you can stop using that channel. The thing you have to watch out with the chat channels is they have a maximum character limit, and they will start to forget things at the top after a while. That limit is, I think, roughly about 150,000 words or letters, characters. Check ChatGPT on that. The context window is 200,000 characters, which is roughly 150,000 words in the chat channel. So if you're using and abusing your 4.5 channel over and over and loading up tons of context, eventually it's going to forget things at the top, and you want to summarize that and put it into the GPT. Now remember the confusing slide about memory. Custom GPTs don't remember the chats that you've had. So all of the memory has to be uploaded and attached either in the prompt or supporting documents. It won't remember the chat unless you come back and reuse the exact same chat again. We're about 5 out of 10 in complexity. We're going to finish with 10. So if you got a headache now, you might want to pop an Advil.
Can you just say all your memories from your chats in a cloud somewhere, so just dump all your memories as you go?
You can build an agentic workflow that will automatically consume all of your chat history, store it in a file, upload it to a vector database. You can connect the vector database back to your chat. You're getting into like N8N, make.com stuff, but yes, you can force the memories. That's level 10 stuff, but yes, you can absolutely do it. I have a slide here showing you that as we warm up into it, yeah. You can force the memory savings. Okay. Turning up the heat some more. Let's keep going. Andy, you're coming up here soon. Don't type, talk. So you'll notice there's a little, if you look at your ChatGPT right now, you'll see there's 2 microphone buttons. Well, one looks like a real microphone. The other one looks like a black sort of speech wave symbol. Those 2 modes, one is called Whisper. It uses Whisper mode, Whisper AI. It's the ChatGPT's proprietary voice transcription service. It is the most powerful tool for small business owners today. If you are not using that microphone button like 50 times a day, you can immediately save 2 hours a day of your life. Every time you're talking, just press the microphone. You get a beautiful transcription and you use it. The other one is called advanced voice mode. This is fun for if you're driving in a car and you're about going to a client meeting and you want to quickly be prepared, and it can do some research. It can check the web. It can tell you all sorts of things. That's great. It talks back to you. It's a little bit slower. It's fun. It's also great for party favors. We did an event in EO Montreal. We had a dinner. We put the phones in the middle of the table. You said, your name will be Jacques. And every time we call your name, you will join the conversation. And it just listened in. And it was like this incredible dinner companion that made us laugh. We even put 2 phones side by side, and the 2 AIs were like arguing with each other at one point. And we almost like fell out of our chairs at that point. But that's advanced voice mode. And it's honestly not very functional unless you're driving in a car. And that's the only time I really use it. The microphone there is incredible. Now, pro tip. If you are on how many of you are on Macs? Raise your hands. How many of you on PCs? Raise your hands. Okay. Sorry. Mac. This is for Mac only for now. Although if you message me, I can give you the hack. You can kind of patch this in. There's a really cool tool called Whisper AI that allows you to tap into the power of that microphone anywhere on your computer, wherever your cursor is. So when I'm building things in Replit or Manus, or if I'm having Slack chats, if you've noticed the microphone button in Slack, the transcriptions are nowhere near as good as the transcriptions you will get from ChatGPT. So you can tap into this Whisper AI from OpenAI through a tool called Super Whisper on Mac. And we have backwards engineered this. I can share the sort of hackish way you can install this on Windows, or you can wait until Whisper AI is available for Windows, which should be soon. It's called Super Whisper, and there it is. And the way it works is no matter where I am, ABC 123, how are you today? It will insert perfect text. So I can go to a Slack chat, and I won't open that for risk of sharing confidential information, but I use it all the time in Slack when I'm on my computer. Instead of typing or even using the microphone. The microphone, do you guys use that a lot in WhatsApp and Slack? It's fun for us, and it's very productive for us, and we can get away with it because we're the business owners. It's really annoying for the people on the other end, right? The transcriptions are wonky. And then they have to sit there and like hit play and be like, I hate it when people send them to me. I do it all the time. Now, the way you fix that is you use something like Super Whisper. So I'll show you in a Google Doc. Hey, I just got out of a meeting with Andy. We were talking about her new image gen, whatever it is that we want to talk about, and it inserts it. And you'll also notice it does it way faster. I don't even use, like when I'm in ChatGPT, and I use this button, which fortunately just came out for everyone, including Windows users on the web browser. This is new. But if you leave this running for 2-3 minutes and you have it process, it will take sometimes 10-15 seconds to get you the transcription. And when you're into that hyper efficiency mode, how nice is that to have just like, boom, insert that text. Now look at when I hit stop and the usability, watch you launch it and your mouse is automatically placed over the X button. This is horrible UX design. I've recorded 5-minute speeches here and then I try to hit stop and I delete it with one click on the X. You got to move your mouse over and hit the check. They will fix that soon. Like 6 seconds for that. Now, if I did the exact same thing using Super Whisper, I could talk for the exact same amount of time and it would translate to a transcription usually in less than 1 second, saving me 5 seconds. But you do that hundreds of times per day and it can start to add up. Just boom, it inserts it. So that's Super Whisper for Mac. Talk, don't type, roughly 2 to 3 times faster. How many people here would say that they are already talking 90% of the time when they're interacting with AI? Raise your hands. Okay, all the rest of you can save hours a month by making that change. And it's kind of like looking down at your fingers while you're typing. You know you're not supposed to do that. And the only way you can get past 25, 30 words per minute is to force yourself to get over that hump, and suddenly you can go 60, 70, 80 words per minute. It's the same thing with switching to the microphone. I used to keep catching myself going back to typing. I'm like, stop typing, use my voice. When you're on your mobile device, all of the mobile apps have that same thing built into it, and you can copy that text and use it elsewhere. So that's an important lesson. It takes a little bit of training. I would say this is probably one of the highest ROI wins. If you just force that to be a habit over the next week, you'll come, like if I talk to you a week from now, I'd be like, thank you, you saved me 10% of my time just from that one change. All right. So at our dinner last night, well, there was 5 of us, had a little sort of pre-dinner catching up, and Andy, who I hadn't seen over 5 years, she was showing us all these crazy things she was doing using the image gen tools. And me and Dan were kind of like scratching our heads like we didn't have the same results. So instead of me quickly trying to become an expert on this, we thought we'd bring up Andy to show us exactly what she has learned, how to get the best out of image generation tools. So Andy, come on up.
Thanks, Mike. I want to thank you guys for convincing me to come up here last night during the dinner. And I'm going to start this by saying I just threw some slides together this morning, and I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but I think I've got it pretty figured out in my head. But I need your support. So if you guys are my friends, I'm going to talk to you as if I'm just talking to my friends and showing you some cool things like we did last night. I just wanted to talk about too, like why I started this journey. So I did a 30-day AI image generation post once per day on social. And it was really to push myself to start using all of the different tools and help solve some of the problems that designers have and looking for good stock photos that are unique and, customized to your client. And then just, finding more interesting things. So anyways, I got some great feedback from people, and a lot of the images I do are either image or character based or people based. And my company is based in a niche of sports. So we do branding and design. It's called Epic Branding Design, as you can see. So a lot of the images will be based around that, which is very difficult to do with images of people and their arms having like 3 arms, 2, whatever, how many fingers and toes, and the equipment's the wrong size and whatnot. So, yeah.
So it started being that we're talking. And whenever we were using the image gen tools, especially of ourselves, it would always mangle our faces. It would just change us into like everything's awesome, but that's not me. You guys have that experience? And he's going to show you how to keep it you with the changes.
Yeah, so you've probably seen a lot of people putting up their digital twins, maybe of them as a superhero or just their corporate photos or whatnot. So this is one way of doing this is the digital twin, and then there's character creation. So one of the challenges I was coming across was coming up with consistent characters. So like a mascot for a team, even if it's your CEO and you just want to use photos of him that looks like him. So the first one's the digital twin. So I uploaded these 4 photos, and then I got back these ones, which are more the corporate ones. And I put a prompt in for each one of these to figure out what I wanted or to tell it what I wanted. And then I did a few fun sports ones. And the one on the right was meant to be in the Okanagan. Doesn't look exactly like it, but it's pretty good. They look mostly like me with a little bit of robot eyes. So had some fun with that. And then I started playing with characters. So when you're in open art, and this is one of the tools I use the most, you generate a character based on one photo. So when I was playing with this and experimenting, I was having a lot of issues with why does this one on the right always have this little black jumper suit on? And I'm wearing a black dress in the photo, and there's also a glass in the bottom. So I'm doing sports in these other photos, which I'll show you afterwards, and I've got a glass, and I'm jumping in the air, and I've got this little black jumper, and I couldn't figure out why. But it's because when you create a character, it makes it so consistent. You have to be careful of anything that you have in the original photo. So the same thing here with the glasses and the hat and the beige shirt. So it's fantastic once you figure it out and you know that you have to start with the right photo in the beginning. And when that, I was going to say, I'm going to switch from the slides afterwards into OpenArt and show you some of the examples of these characters. But I'll keep going on these slides for now. So I can show you the good and the bad. So I wanted to be able to create some cool imagery for sports clients that was like a Nike level or high agency level where there's lots of room for text and it's just beautiful without the Photoshop work and stuff like that. So Leonardo Flow is a lot of fun. You can just enter in your prompt and it does pages of options for you and all these different images come up. So you have so many different options to look for. Just these snowboarding ones, there is, I have so many more. I wish I could show all of them to you guys, but I've got more on my Instagram if you want to check it out. The one issue with this is I'm showing you all the nice finished ones, but it took a lot to get here. With snowboarding, it would mix it up with skiing, and it would have people, instead of sideways on the snowboard going this way, it would have it going straight ahead, or 2 skis when it's supposed to be a snowboard, and equipment's the wrong size, or there's just shoes sitting on top with no bindings, stuff like that. So the way I helped solve that was Mike mentioned briefly about the prompts. And I added this to what I was going to say afterwards because he came up with the create. So I'm going to have to make an acronym out of this. But when you're creating an image, you need to state the subject and then the environment, talk about the lighting that you want. What kind of color palette do you want? Maybe that's the colors. You can enter them exactly from your brand, put in those codes, and then the mood and atmosphere. So I'll create some kind of acronym out of that to make it easy to remember. But that helps a lot. And when I went into prompt base, you can buy your prompts that are extremely detailed, and it'll say what kind of camera was being used, what was the shutter stop, like all these crazy details. This one goes into as far as talking about remix modes and variation modes and everything. So I just used that, changed it for different sports, and then got these amazing results. So I don't know if you need to do the stylistic codes or anything now, because I did this a month ago, which is like a year in AI time. So some of the stuff I'm saying might be out of date already. But here's some other images that I created. Lots of hockey images. The issue with a lot of these team ones too was there was not 2 teams. There was like 14 teams because they all had slightly different jerseys and they're all very similar. So that was a challenge. And then I'm going to show you a few examples of this sketch to image as well. So I spent all of 10 seconds to draw this little sketch of a sports arena, and I turned the creativity to low and adherence to prompt high, and I got the first one on the left. And then I turned up the creativity, and I got the one on the right, which I like a lot better. And then I pulled it into another image software and added the roads and stuff. So it turned out to be pretty cool mock-up that, an architect might have done. And then I also used the sketch to image with my son and some other kids, and we created some really cool cartoons. So I'm going to switch. I'll say here too, if you want to see more of the stuff that we created, you can go to Epic Branding Design on Instagram or other platforms. So here's the fun part. Okay, so this is open art. So just to make this simple and easy, I just chose one platform to show you guys. But to start off, the 2 characters that I created are those 2 images here. So whenever I'm doing a prompt, I say, I want @LeePixar to do this, or @Lee to do that. And that's my middle name, so it's easy for me to remember. So before today, I created an image of what I'm doing right now. So these ones are just for fun. I just created Lee Pixar just as an example of what you could do before and after with you saw the image of the glasses of me before. But the applications for someone else's business, like I said, is, you could have your mascot creating all these different images, lots of social posts and things that you can create in a snap. So here's the biking one. Anything you want this Lee Pixar to do, I can have it. I took a picture of myself with a bike and I asked it to replace with Lee Pixar. So I want to ask if somebody wants me to try a prompt with one of these 2 characters.
You were talking about being on quad last night.
Oh, okay. That's a great idea.
But Lee Pixar on a quad.
Yeah. Okay, let's just make it simple and then give it a second to get that ready. So any of these images, when they're static, I was just thinking right now. Hold on.
Question for you. How much does it cost to use a tool like this? You use it professionally, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's only $20 a month for this one. The other one that I use is $50 quarterly. So it's not a lot of money. Midjourney and some of the other platforms that most of you probably have heard of are around the same price, or even less, actually. So here's some images of Lee Pixar. Oh, that one didn't work. See, it's the mysteries. Hey, it did come up with some cool images, but some of them are a little bit off. Lee Pixar. I wonder why that didn't work. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, exactly, right? My characters. Oh, here. Writing. Try that one more time. In the meantime, I'll show you a static image that I turned into a video. So I tried this live, and it did work. and I turned it into this. And that's super easy to do. Same with this one. I turned that into an animation. Yeah, so I want to move through to some of these other images that I created and the problems that I had with them. So you start to get wheels that aren't round and extra. Yeah, you can see the problems with these extra wheels. And yeah, it goes crazy sometimes. So yeah, the importance of a good prompt is, the most. Couple more things. So the sketch to image, this was done by my son, this drawing. And so that we have different models we can choose when we're generating the images. So he wanted this giraffe on a skateboard. So I tried a few different models. This one's more realistic cartoon. And then we've got Minecraft style. So you can have a lot of fun with this and just getting creative with what a 4-year-old can draw, right? She wanted a chicken with rainbows in the sky and this bear. So you've got a little chicken friend down here. So that's it for those pieces. Does anyone have any questions on how to create better images?
Does that allow you to use proprietary IP? So if you're referencing a specific individual that exists to the public on you, or a specific brand, did it say McDonald's will actually produce something, will purchase it?
Yeah. So if anyone couldn't hear, he's asking if you can use a specific image of someone and load it in, and if it is against IP. And you can put in here pose references and image-to-image composition references. So you can put a picture of a person in and try to create images from them. And I've done some examples.
Like XRB or XR fighting Conor McGregor in a UFC fight. Totally. Like all those loading in the background will create that video.
Yeah, you could do that 100%. It might not be perfect the first time, but yeah, you can try some different settings on the side here. And this is what I've had to do. You can see right here how many tries I had at creating Lee Pixar. So it's not always perfect, but yeah, you can definitely do that. And then things like poses for sports, you can put in a pose reference because it's really hard to show. With baseball, it always puts the hands backwards or it just doesn't look right, or they're facing in towards the catcher. Just all these issues with all the photos. So yeah, using Firefly or other programs, you can use those pose references or people references or face references. One more thing I'll show. Mike, how much time do I have?
Keep going. It's great. Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Have you found a way to get past the restrictions about using children in images? Like I have a client, Bean and Stock Natural Playgrounds, and I'm trying to, like, whenever I take a real picture and want to manipulate it, I get all these like warnings. Doesn't let me do that. Have you found a way around that? Is that I've been using predominantly ChatGPT, but
I've generated images of kids, but I haven't put any in as reference. So yeah,
that's what I was going to check, because I noticed like when you're using like a digital twin or an AI generated piece of art, it's very easy to keep that consistent and then manipulate it. But quite often when you go from like a real image into the AI image, that's when I run into restrictions. So the solution we were working on for children is that we would, instead of using real children that we'd then manipulate in the photo, is that we would do digital children first, develop the character, and then use them in the art. That's what we were trying to do to get around it, but it was still like hit and miss with warnings and sensors for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I wonder if you could start off using a real photo and then just do a subtle variation, because you can do variations if you click through and just hit subtle, and then you can choose from a few different ones that whatever one you think looks closest or best.
Yeah, like anytime within ChatGPT, if you upload an image that has a child in it under the age of, I don't know, I'm guessing 13, it just rejects it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For good reason, I think. Okay. And also the frustration with, I just use myself as an example because I can talk about and stand here and you can see the likeness. But this little jumpsuit thing that I had on, I wanted it to look more like a real soccer uniform. So you can actually do in-painting in here and, yes. So you can paint here in green, which is kind of like a mask, and then I don't know what it's going to do right now. I would have finished that mask, but you paint exactly where you want it to change. And then within that space, you can prompt it to change it to a soccer uniform that's blue that matches the other players. And in this case, it just blurred it out, but I needed to finish the job.
You could highlight that all as they turn that into a child.
Yeah, you could. I've done it where it has 2 soccer balls, and I just do that and then say delete the soccer ball, which is really easy. And I increased the length of my socks. I tried to change my hair. That was too hard. It wasn't working. But I have like a whole fast version video of this on my Instagram, so you can see like all the variations that I went through on there. So if you have the perfect image, but there's just one little thing wrong with it, you can just in-paint that little problem. Maybe there's like a button on someone's forehead or something simple you can fix, right? So you just never know the kind of crazy things that AI does. So yeah, I think that's it. So any other questions? Or
Thank you so much, Andy.
okay, no worries.
Quick show of hands. How are you all feeling right now? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Raise your hands. Anyone feeling overwhelmed? Really? This has come a long way. I've been doing this a long time, and it's usually like half the room, hands go up. You guys feeling excited about opportunities? Raise your hands. All right. Good job, Andy. You crushed it. Thank you. All right. This is one of my personal favorite tools right now. And us in leadership positions, I think this should probably be your most favorite tool. If you have not used this yet, you will start using this almost every day. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you have already figured out the magic of deep research? Put them up high. Now, wave them side to side if you're like, holy shit, this tool is amazing. You're with me? Okay. This shit is crazy. And the new, oh yeah, see, I'm starting to swear. That's your fault. Letting me steal your coffee. The O4 model is almost like deep research. If you use O4 Mini, it will sometimes go out there and look at 200 sources while it's doing your prompt. It'll answer it. So I'm starting to figure out now, like, when do I use deep research and when do I just use the O3 and O4 models, and it will almost accomplish the same thing. So pretty crazy to see what's going on. But deep research, what it is, it's one of the first highly functional agents. Now, what are agents? Agents are AIs that go out and do more stuff than you sort of set a broad objective, and it will try to accomplish that objective over X period of time, and then we'll come back. Manus is an agent. Replit, which I'll hopefully have time to show you, is a software development agent. This agent is a research agent. I had a client and a friend, and if he's on the live stream, hello, Sharif, out in Montreal. He sells ingredients to Fortune 5000s, things like pea protein to Pepsi, things like that. And he wanted a deep research report on pea protein trade and volumes and history and all this sort of stuff around the world. And the agent went out there. We built a beautiful long prompt. It went out there, did a whole bunch of research, came back and gave him this massive report. And he said to me, we'd normally pay $10,000 for a report like that. I've heard that from a lot of people, where you build these sophisticated reports. Someone say, I would normally have somebody spend 40 hours creating that for me. Another recent example of deep research was for a client. I'll keep it anonymous. Okay. In case he's watching, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share this in detail, but he's in the insurance industry. He sort of fights with the insurance agents to get better returns and claims on behalf of his clients. And so when there's a fire in a home, they would list out all of the different items and what they're worth and say, we're giving you $150,000 for contents. And then his team would have to go out and cross-reference all of those and say, well, you quoted this and it's actually $30,000 more. That's one of the steps that they would do to get more for their clients. We took a screenshot of just one page and said to deep research, can you go out there and analyze and compare and find prices and tell us if they're accurate? Do it in table format. The first column shows the price that came from the insurance adjuster. The second column would show the best price that you found online, and then include the source and a link to it. It went out there. It was working for like 45 minutes. It came back, and he looked at that and he's like, well, I don't want to say what he said. You can guess. It can have a big impact on the amount of work that goes into those projects, like a significant impact for him. So deep research is incredibly powerful. It is an agent. Now, we talked about that earlier about separating your prompts from the actual action. What most people do with deep research is they just blabber into their microphone and say, do this. It'll ask you 3 or 4 questions. I want you to do a test when you get home or sometime later. Write this one down. Do a test. Just do a normal deep research. Come up with something, a really good starting point. And it's considering the topic of today. Just, I want you to do a deep research on my industry. Tell me what my competition is doing to adopt artificial intelligence. What is working? What is not working? This will really help you with ideas about what you should be thinking about for AI adoption. Just a prompt like that. It'll come back and ask you 3 to 5 questions. You answer those, hit submit. I want you to write down how much time it spends on the research, and at the end, like how many pages of content you got. Read the entire report, grade it from 1 to 10. Then I want you to go back and do the more complex one. That's where you follow something like the CREATE framework and say, I want you to act as a prompt engineer and help me come up with an incredible prompt for the goal of deep research on this specific topic. I want you to interview me, ask me questions one by one, waiting for me to respond until you have all the context that you need to crush this. And go spend 10 minutes back and forth with AI. And take your giant prompt. When it's done, you click the little blue deep research button at the bottom and then run it. Compare the results. That example I gave earlier was like a 50, 60 page report versus 25. Night and day difference. And it was exactly what she wanted. Refine and enhance it. You run the deep research report, read it, and be like, how could I make this better? Go back to AI and say, okay, prompt engineer version, this was the output. I really wish you highlighted this more or followed this framework for that, or I wish you bolded the headings more, or could you include a section for this and for that? Run it again. Run it again. Keep iterating on it, then save those, especially for prompts that you're going to run on a regular basis. Something like a monthly competitive research analysis report, which you should be running. Iterate, enhance it. So, yeah, we'll compare the differences at home because it takes too much time. Now, remember I've seen a lot of people make this mistake when they're first playing around with deep research. They will do something like this. Well, let's use my super whisper to show off. I want you to do a deep research on digital marketing agencies and how they're adopting artificial intelligence in the future. They hit submit. And then they tell me that they get back a report and they think that's deep research. It's not deep research. You have to press this button at the bottom to activate your deep research. And then it will be thinking. So don't get confused. Some of these thinking models can produce some pretty spectacular results and have references, and they're long, and you're like, all right, it's pretty cool, but I've already been kind of getting that. I didn't see what was so special. When you do a real deep research, please proceed. See, I can't even type short words anymore. Now it's activated. See the blue? I hit enter. And what it will do is ask some clarifying questions. You can quickly answer them using the microphone. Yes, I would love global overviews, cover agencies that cater to small businesses, 150 employees or less. I would love real world case studies. My overall goal here is to see what other agencies are doing so I can learn from them. Sure, infographics and tables would be great. Thank you. So answer the questions, make sure the blue button is activated, then hit search. Now, deep research, it will take sometimes between 5 and 60 seconds to activate, and then you'll see this little bubble appear. And then there'll be sort of a more info or more details button. It's not yet live. It's just initiating that. When it goes, I encourage you to do this exercise. If you want to really understand how AI works, try reading through the entire thread of the chain of thought reasoning. Chain of thought reasoning is the thinking that you see in these O models, and deep research will show you everything it's thinking and doing, all of the different sources it's going to. I've sat there and nerded out, just watched that for half an hour, and I learned a bunch of things about AI and about research in general. That's a really good exercise on a Friday night. Okay, so it's now initiated. You can see the chain of thought will appear on the right-hand side if you click. If you click at the top, you can see the sources it's looked at. Here we'll show the chain of thought thinking. And you just sit there, watch it, and it can take sometimes, if it's a short, easy prompt, like look at all the tire dealerships in Kelowna that we could potentially acquire and put under the Trail Tire brand, that might take 3 minutes. If you're like, do a global report on pea protein, and it can take a long time. It'll tap into unique and proprietary data sources. OpenAI is consistently negotiating deals with data providers and plugging it into these tools. So I've seen it get into stuff. I'm like, I don't even know where it got that data from. And it keeps getting better. There was an announcement, I think 48 hours ago, they just struck a deal with what's Jeff Bezos, Washington Post. All of the data and all of the archives from Washington Post are now included deep into OpenAI. They've already done that with BBC, New York Times. They keep adding more data sources. I think a lot of government and statistical data from like StatsCan and stuff is already in there. So it's not just data from the web. So that's deep research. So first, separate the prompt. Like what I did there is an example of how most people prompt it. I didn't separate the prompt. I didn't do prompt engineering. I just, this is what I need. If it's an important report, take the time, do a prompt, have it act as a prompt engineer, interview you, ask you a bunch of questions, and you will get a crazy prompt. Then click the blue button, then launch it, compare the results. Night and day difference. Okay, and I'm going to share this with you offline. Here's an example. Well, if you want to test out multimodal capabilities right now, you can take a picture of this, zoom in if you're in the back row, submit that into using any of the multimodal models, which I think are all of them. You could use O4 Mini, O3, or GPT-4, and then say, I want you to run this deep research report for you. It'll strip the text off of the image and it'll get to work. But this is an example. One of the things I added in here, which is I often do, if you haven't fully customized ChatGPT and it hasn't interviewed you, if it doesn't know a lot about your company, you can sometimes throw in something like that. First, I want you to go out there and research me and my business so you understand me and what my needs are. Then I want you to go out and research for my competitors. You can have it do pre-work. I actually had one AI advisor friend from EO Halifax. He taught me something new, which I haven't explained to anyone. This is the first time I'm going to try to explain it. He called it developing the bibliography in advance. And I was like, it's been a long time. I was like, what's a bibliography again? It's like a list of all of the books and sources that you want to have referenced. So what he was doing is he would first use one of the advanced models to go out in the web and find all of the different sources that he wanted to include within his deep research and define that with it. So he had a bibliography within his prompt. And he said that was getting him exceptional results. And that's also another way to help reduce hallucinations. We haven't talked much about hallucinations, but I'm sure all of you know AI loves to make shit up when it doesn't know the answer. And so when you clearly define the sources that you want to use, that's one of the many ways to reduce hallucinations. All right, we're going to build a couple custom GPTs here together with you. First one for me is the most powerful one. I use it all day long. And before we go into building that GPT, we'll do a quick lesson on transcriptions. How many people here have discovered the magic of having all of your online meetings transcribed and giving you beautiful summaries at the end? Raise your hands. Now, of those people, how would you say that this is saving you hours a month? Shake them back and forth. Okay, if you're not doing this, do this right away. It's amazing. So you should, if you're doing a Zoom call or a Teams call, have your transcripts. Those transcripts, you can use them and put them into custom GPTs and get beautiful detailed email summaries or beautiful breakdown that you post directly into Slack. We've even connected them into agentic workflows using tools like make.com or N8N and can have it automatically create Asana tasks for us. All sorts of crazy things you can do with transcriptions. Now, I was talking to a Kelowna friend, Brad, from Lux Quality Homes, and he was often going into meetings with a notepad before he'd build a home, and he'd have to, write down tons and tons of notes and information. Then he would get back to his office, and his team would have to type it all up and build out the project plan. So if you're in a situation like that and you want the transcript, the best tool to use is the native voice recorder on your iPhone. Or if you're on an Android device, whatever is the equivalent. So if you're on your iPhone, it's this little guy. It will be your new best friend. I was in a lunch meeting with Brad at Cactus Club, the one not on the waterfront, and it was loud. And I had a meeting. And so if it's in a loud environment, you have the recording going, you could just do a little bit of this over a lunch meeting. It worked perfectly fine. This voice recorder at the end, you can click on it and then hit the top the 3 buttons in the top say view transcript. And now you've got a transcript that you can copy and put into your custom GPT and get a beautiful summary. I have a 2-hour-long meeting and it generates like 2-page detailed summary, exactly how I want it using this custom GPT. Now, there are situations where you only get an audio file. One of them can be on a phone call. If you're in a client meeting, they call you up on the phone. For me, that's super annoying. I'm like, just book me on my Calendly and we'll do a Zoom call. Who calls these days? So annoying, right? But when they do call, there's a new feature from Apple. Actually, Brad helped me discover this one. I was embarrassed because it's a year-old feature. But when we get a phone call, in the top left corner, if you're on an iPhone, there's like a little wave symbol. If you click that, it'll count down 3, 2, 1. This call is being recorded. It'll announce it on both sides, and then it will record the call for you. Now, this is really weird for Apple. I'm sure they'll fix this when they finally fix their whole Apple Intelligence fiasco, if you've been following that one. But you just get an audio file. So what do you do with that audio file? We push it to a tool called Notta AI, Notta AI. And I'm sure like Andy showed you one image tool, there's hundreds. That's the one I use. I pay like $140 a year or something for it. And I send audio files, it converts it into beautiful transcripts. So whether you're in an in-person meeting, if you're an online Zoom or Teams call, or if you're just taking a phone on your iPhone, you should be getting transcriptions from all of those situations. It is the easiest, fastest, quickest win, huge ROI, and absolutely little to no cost, like $20 a month, and you can do all these things. If you took these tools away from me, I would lose 2 to 3 hours a day. Okay, so now that I've got my transcripts, well, before I move on to using those transcripts with custom GPTs, do you have any questions about how we get those transcripts? Okay, and we're going to build up the complexity. Right now, we're doing some things manual. We're going to finish off. We can do this all automatically so that this happens like magic. You just get off the call and things happen. So to create a custom GPT, in ChatGPT on the left-hand side, you click Explore GPTs. Make sure you're in the correct plan. You can see the little blue diamond in the top right corner. I'm in my Teams plan. Why is that important? If you create it in your personal account and you spend a whole bunch of time, you can't easily you have to recreate it in the correct account. And you can't share GPTs from your personal account. You can only share them from your Teams account unless you make them publicly available. So first step, make sure you're in the right account, which I am. And then you just click Create. Now, I would recommend you avoid Create mode. There's 2 tabs, Create and Configure. Create, it will kind of conversationally prompt you back and forth, ask you questions, and it can build the GPT slowly over time, asking you those questions. What I like to do is I go into a separate ChatGPT window here. First, I want you to check the web and come up with best practices for meeting transcriptions. My goal, some context here for you, is I'm trying to create a custom GPT, and I want to be pasting in transcriptions from meetings where I've got long transcriptions, and I want you to be able to summarize them in a way that I'm not losing any of the context or the meaning. I want them to be organized in a professional way, and I want them to look amazing for consistent outputs. But before we go back and forth and you interview me, I want you to first go out there and check the web and look for industry best practices for this. And with this, I'm going to select 04 Mini High. Oh, did I lose it? Did I press the wrong button? So that's one thing I want to warn you about, and I'm kind of glad that happened live. It does happen a lot. Oh, it's still thinking? And this is one of the reasons I like Super Whisper. This happens less. Be careful when you're using the voice transcription feature. Have you noticed that sometimes it screws up like that? I usually do it in chunks, like 1 or 2 minutes at a time. The worst feeling in the world is you're creating a 10-minute long transcription after a long sales meeting. You're all excited, and you're blah, 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 and you go hit submit. It's like error. You're like, no. So be careful with that. The most robust voice transcription tool that has never failed me is the old school iOS voice recorder. It's never broken on me once. The AI tools that are streaming back and forth from the web, they do occasionally break. So first step, I'm going to try that again with Super Whisper. I want you to go out on the web and find a framework for industry best practices that digital transformation agencies would use to give detailed summaries after a client-facing meeting. Go out there and get that context for me. So I'm really working on step C of create framework, just getting some initial context. And the best model to go out on the web and get data is now like O4 Mini High. It is phenomenal. So I'm just getting a ton of context. I find this is useful because sometimes when it just interviews me for something, I just tell it what I know. Like we were talking about this with Andy. It's like, I don't even know all the different types of images or apertures or photo lens length, and I wouldn't even know what to do. So you can have it go out on the web and look for best practices on something. It'll come back with like all of this knowledge because when it interviews you, it can only pull out context that is in your brain, right? So that's the first step I'm doing here. And that's another thing is you can start working on your context for the next prompt while you're waiting for it to complete if you want to speed things up. So here we can see a structured summary template that digital transformation agencies use. It'll list out who the attendees are, the agenda topics, decisions made, action items, next steps, additional notes, past, present, future, consulting check-in, start, stop, continue, debrief. Oh, I don't know. I can assume we read all that and it's great. And I'm going to skip the step for the sake of time, but normally here I'd say, great, now I want you to interview, ask me questions. And the reason we say one by one waiting for me to respond is because often when I respond to AI, the context that I give it will change the next question. Or sometimes I will answer 3 questions at once and it will skip a few questions. So I'll see people sometimes ask me 10 questions or give me 20 questions and you fill them all out and they don't check. And you might have opened up 10 more questions through the context that you gave it. So that's why we'd say 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, because your answers will change the context of the next question. But I'm going to skip that step right now and just assume that this is awesome. So you're going to use the create framework. We're going to build a beautiful prompt. I'll say, okay, act as a prompt engineer to help me create this custom GPT. Take all the context that you know and just create a beautiful prompt that I can use within my GPT. I'm going to take the output from this, which will be the prompt. I'll go back into the custom GPT now. I will not be using create mode. I'm just using configure mode, and I'll paste the prompt directly into the instructions box. Just copy it, paste it over here. And when we talk about separating the prompt from the action, this is what I mean, is like you do the prompt work somewhere and then you use it somewhere else. It can be on a different application. You could do this work here and then use it in Midjourney to create an image. All right, I'm going to name this. We'll call it the EO Kelowna Test Meeting Transcription Summarizer Bot. Okay. This will be used after all client meetings to create beautiful summary transcriptions that can be used in email or Slack. There's my prompt. I can upload additional files. So if I had a brand voice document and I wanted to ensure it always upheld our brand voice, or maybe I had some core values that I wanted to make sure were reflected in the whatever that is, I could upload those additional files here. I think I have a My Zone brand voice document somewhere. For those of you who want to get fancy, you can start to connect these tools directly with APIs and do things like at the end, after I take my transcription, put it into the custom GPT, I want you to push it up into a Google Drive folder for me. You'd probably get a developer or somebody in your company to help you with this. I don't touch this stuff, but this is where you do it. It's at the bottom there. Oh, under create new action. And you click into here, and that's where you can enter API keys and do fun stuff like connect to Google Drive. But again, I don't think CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, we need to worry about these things. Just know that those capabilities are available. You can upload, or it'll create an avatar, an image. You can do that there. If you're sharing it with your team, it's good to have an icon so they can quickly see it, recognize it, and use it. And that should be it. It automatically saves every time you make a change. Like I'm just going to add an extra space here at the end. And you'll see the top right-hand corner, it's auto-saving and it's done. Now I want to test it out. I'm going to take a transcription from a meeting, which I don't have handy. Let's pretend this is a sales meeting. Derek, I'm really interested in buying an ATV. Hey, Mike, that's great. I've got lots of great ATVs. I got this one for your family. It's on sale. Thanks, Derek. How soon can I get it delivered? Next week. Amazing. That's awesome. Sign me up. Oh, wait. do you also sell clothes? I don't have a helmet. Do I need a spine protector? Yeah, Mike, you need clothes and a spine protector. That's great, Derek. Awesome. Great. We'll see you next week. Oh, and don't forget to send me that important document about ABC. I don't know, horrible fake transcription. You copy that, you paste it into here, and without any other context or prompting, it knows exactly what to do because you have told it what to do in the prompt. Now, this is when we're going to get into the E step of prompt engineering, enhance, iterate. We're testing it on the right-hand side in preview mode, and we want to see what the output looks like. Okay, so the prompt required a whole bunch of things. And I didn't have the things in the meetings. It's interesting. It's clarifying what those things were. So before it does that report, yeah, it was just me and Derek. The meeting was April 23rd today. And the important document was a PDF on how to do prompt engineering. And then now it should have all the information that the prompt was requiring, and it should create a beautiful summary transcription. What I used to do in the past is I would say, hey, just summarize this. Please include an overview of everything we talked about, and then action items at the bottom. That's probably what a lot of you have done to summarize transcriptions. But the output was always like short, and it was always different, and it had slightly different formatting. And I also found that when we're in meetings, you'll probably find this a lot, especially if I have a meeting with me, is we might talk about one thing and then something else, and then we come back to that topic, and the meeting is all different formats. One of the great meeting transcription prompt changes that I made is that it doesn't organize the transcription chronological order. It groups things in logical groupings, which was a huge help, and organize things together. But most importantly it's like imagine if you went to a Wikipedia page and every time you went to a new page, something was slightly different. If your team is using transcriptions and pasting them into your Slack and Teams and things are in slightly different order with different font sizes, it's confusing. It just slows you down. So this will ensure a consistent output every time. Now we're in that enhance stage. We want to look at the output. Okay, so the meeting was April 23rd by me. I was the buyer with Derek. He's a sales rep. I'm looking to buy an ATV. Those are the agenda topics: delivery of timing, past This is the whole framework: decisions made, stop, start, continue, action items, due dates, key metrics, next steps, follow-ups. Okay, well, if there's something I want to change, that's when I come along here and say, I'll make something silly just for illustration purposes. Well, this is when I go back to the prompt. So I can take the output from here, or I just go back to my prompt and say, okay, thank you so much. I just created my GPT, I tested it, and it looked phenomenal. But under the action items section, can you make sure the first column, everything was bolded, and add an additional column that ranks them by priority? Low, medium, high priority. If it knows, otherwise it just says unknown. So now I'm going to iterate that prompt. I'm still in the channel where it's acting as a prompt engineer. It has all of the context from before already in here, and it knows what its prompt was and says, those are the changes. It will come along and give me the updated prompt. And all I have to do when it's done, I hit copy it, and I will overwrite everything that was in the instructions box. So I just copy the new version, go back to my custom GPT. Don't touch create mode. It mangles things all the time. This is a way better result. I just select all within the instructions box. I paste the new one, and I'll test it again with my next transcription, and it will fix those things, bold the column perfectly. So iterate on that. The most common GPTs that I find are impactful for small businesses are creating custom standard operating procedure GPTs for documentation. That's a really good one. Again, that you would go out, separate the prompt, say, I want you to act as a prompt engineer and find the best framework for standard operating procedures. Go out there and check the web, tell me what's good, interview me, ask me questions, go back and forth until you have a beautiful prompt, copy that, bring it over, and then these SOP bots, they will interview you, ask you questions. I've shared them with my team, and then all of the documents that we output, we've also done that connector, so it pushes them up to Google Drive automatically. But then all of the documents have exact, consistent formatting. Everything's in the same order. They're beautiful. So SOP bots, very helpful. The transcription bot, those are the two main ones that I use. This one Might be a little bit technical, but as an example, say I have a client that needs help building a custom agentic workflow using make.com or N8N. This field is called Intelligence Process Automation, or IPA. And before you can go to your team and say, do a bunch of work, you have to make sure you get all the right resources collected, right? What this custom GPT does is it knows these are the 37 things that you need to get from the client before the team can actually help you. So if there's ever a situation where like you're in the middle between an expert on your team and a client, then you have to collect information on a consistent basis, creating custom GPTs for that are super helpful. Account managers, sales reps, business development people. So this one will just run me through a series of questions I will talk to, and at the end, it creates a beautiful technical document that I can then send off to my team, and they don't have to go back and forth with the client and collect everything. It gets everything I need every time. Now we're getting into the flying or running, some of the fancier stuff. So this was one of my favorite and fastest automations, post-meeting automation we talked about, but now instead of me having to copy the transcription from my AI tool or wherever and then paste it into ChatGPT and then wait and then copy it and then go over to my Slack channel and then post it, it now does it all automatically. So we just did an API connection between Zoom using make.com with ChatGPT was the intelligence we plugged into there, and then it inserts it into Slack in a very consistent format. Another thing that we found was a problem is our team would just forget. They would finish the meeting like, oh shit, I didn't grab the transcript. Where is it? And then we'd have to like go to Zoom and wait for it to process and then get the file. And this thing just runs on a sequence. Like every hour it checks, is there a new Zoom call that I can do this for? And it kicks off that automation. It cost us about $500 labor cost to implement this and $20 a month in licensing cost. Honestly, I don't even know what the ROI was. I said 9.7. It could be 100x return in the first year. Our whole company is using this one every day, probably 30 to 50 meetings a day. Company strategy GPT. I've been working with Garrett from Goliath Energy, fellow EO Kelowna member who didn't show up today. We're building a strategy bot for him where we can run deep research reports on a schedule and we'll upload them to the cloud and connect them to AI. This is where things get really fancy. You can upload your VTO and then just interact with it. Now, where this gets super fancy, and we were talking about how can you have these GPTs have additional memories, is that, so this is similar to, remember Peter's presentation, what he's building is basically these deep research agents that are going out there crawling the web, looking at all of their competitors, extracting everything from all their social channels, from all of their newsletters, from all the pricing and products and promotions on their website, storing them, archiving them, and allowing the agent to interact with that. You can build a lightweight version of this for yourself by building a deep research agent using make.com or N8N that will go out on a scheduled basis. Say it's competitive intelligence on your industry. You build a beautiful prompt, you go out there, you collect it, and then every month you log that. This is January competitive intelligence, February competitive intelligence, March, you keep doing that. And then you have another AI that comes back and analyzes those reports. Each month that there's a new report, it goes back and analyzes what has changed in your industry. It summarizes that and pushes it into a Slack channel. Heads up, your competitor just dropped your prices 9%. You might want to look into this. Super powerful stuff. So scheduling deep research to be automatic and then archiving that data over time. And any of you got into math? I did first level in my commerce degree. I think it was called the first derivative, like the rate of change of a set of something. If you want to look at the rate of change within a data set, AI can do that and can report on that. But then you can get into fancier stuff where you're looking at the rate of change of the rate of change, like the second derivative. I think we're getting a bit too nerdy here, but AI can analyze things like trends and movements and patterns within the industry and start to tell you things like your strategy is slowly positioning this way, whereas the industry is slowly headed this way at an accelerating rate. And it will identify market opportunities for you to take action. So I actually think automating CEO work is doable. So you have the deep research reports going. This was done, that infographic I talked about where all the spelling was wrong and I said, go back and fix your spelling. Look at that. That was all done with image gen in GPT-4 in like 1 minute. Well, the first one I was like, you failed me. And then you impressed me. It's like a real relationship with AI. So the deep research reports that can be automated, go out on a sequence. You can have all your first-party data feeding in there. You can have your rate of change analysis and automatic alerts pushed into Slack and Teams channels. And you can be at the golf course and be like, boop, oh, I got to take action. Should I do this? Yes or no? I think that is the future of CEO-ship. I've pulled leadership team. We're recommending an AI board meeting Tuesday at 2 p.m. Please confirm. Everyone's calendars are free. Yes. Back to golf. Stuff like that. So automating that. We're going to have to take vibe coding offline. Super cool stuff. Check out Replit. Check out Manus. When you're playing with any of those tools, do your prompting outside of it and bring it in. And what you can do is build your own software. I had my son build a math game to learn fractions, and it gamified it. There's confetti, there's streaks, if he gets a question wrong, it explains the answer. I connected it to OpenAI via that API connection, the plugin. I know nothing about software development. And whenever I got stuck, I took a screenshot. I went to ChatGPT and said, what is Replit talking about here? It's like, oh, you need to get an API key from OpenAI. I'm like, well, how do I do that? And it's like, go here, do this. And I'm like, okay. And I gave the key to Replit. And then now I baked intelligence into my little piece of software, and I'm paying for token. Like, what the F? This whole what the F moment is called vibe coding, and it is blowing up. All of you could become developers within an hour of playing around with it. You can build simple, easy games. Last night I was trying to build an application that would allow you to do the AI readiness assessment collectively as a team. It was connecting to Google, authenticating you, and we could all see your scores and how you're ranking and leaderboard and see how this team was organized. I got it to the 90% mark in like an hour of work. I ran out of time. I had to sleep, but that was the game the app I was trying to build for you to illustrate the power of vibe coding. So be sure at least one person in your company is checking out vibe coding. Tools like Replit, Manus. If you have developers, they're probably using tools like Cursor AI and Claude 3.7 or now Gemini 2.5. I know I'm going fast here, but this is just planting a seed that just like you want to have somebody looking into intelligence process automation, playing around with make.com or N8N, you also want to have somebody saying, how can we start to build our own software to automate things? And that happens easily with vibe coding, Replit, and others. Now, as we know in EO, one of the best ways to learn is together. I have all sorts of EO groups that I learn from. I've got a bunch of nerdy AI guys. We're in WhatsApp groups. We meet and chat regularly whenever I have questions. We have a group for the general EO community. When anyone has questions, the nerds will jump in and give answers. I know not all of you are in EO and you don't have access to those sort of industry forums. So we quickly created a little school community for those of you that are not in EO. You can join it at school.com/myzoneai. That's where we've uploaded all of our workshops, all of our materials. You can also just scan the QR code. And I encourage those of you that are in EO to join that community as well. That's where we're going to keep all of our knowledge base, because it's kind of hard to keep that organized in those WhatsApp channels. So would love it if you could be the first wave of people joining, and let's learn together. So I want to finish with a little message. Matt has seen this one. So I hear this from a lot of people. Like they feel that AI is going to make their company more digital or more technical, and that's not really them. Am I going to lose the culture? No. AI is going to free up your time. That future for AI is about you having abundance of time so that you can spend more time working on the most important things in your business, which are those person-to-person relationships. The relationships you have with your team, with your customers, and free up time for your family. So, thank you very much.